Redditors who rode the bus to and from school, what was your most memorable moment on the school bus? Leroy. High school. We named our bus driver Leroy 1996. Before Leroy Jenkins. This ride or die motherfucker would not speak. He pulled up in his bus, opened the swing arm, glared at us, waited, closed the swing arm, waited. Once we were seated he would drive. Not a word, ever. We drank, we smoked, What finally broke him was a fight. Leroy pulled his bus over and got out of his seat. Standing in the aisle Leroy said that's enough. The entire bus went silent. Leroy was the man. Oh man, I had one of those too. His name was Martin, and I'll be damned if would be calling him Martin, never Marty or any other variation. He just had a face that said don't fuck up or I'll be dropping you at the police station. Hardly ever spoke. We had senior kids setting off smoke bombs and fireworks on the bus every fucking year for a month before and a month after Halloween. A smoke bomb even landed on me and burned my skirt through once when the bus drivers told them off. They used to just swear and act like they owned the place. One day we had a bus driver who just drove the bus to the police station when that shit started, and a few of the kids who were throwing the fireworks were crying when they got taken off the bus by police. The buses had CCTV too, so they couldn't even deny it. I was so glad when my older sister started driving and I could get lifts with her instead of going on the bus. I had a bus driver who would purposely speed up when going over speed bumps so the kids could catch air. He got fired eventually for running into some garbage cans. At Kids Top, our after school program for kids whose parents worked late, they had a van they would use when taking us on small trips. Every time we went somewhere we would always go hit the dip in the road a few blocks away first. Every time Donna drove she used to hit it a little harder and we got some serious air in the back seat. One day a kid chipped his tooth because of how violent the impact was. That was the end of that. Rumor had it, the kid chipped his tooth on the ceiling. I have two stories. In middle school my bus once caught on fire a block away from the school. It was a tiny one, but enough to call the firefighters. We all piled off and watched them do their thing. They brought a second bus, which also caught on fire. Eventually we were brought a third bus 30 minutes later. This was all during the winter and we weren't allowed to walk back to the school because of safety reasons. Never understood why it was more safe to have kids standing outside in winter next to a bus on fire than to walk them a block back to the school. The other time I was in first grade. My bus driver was a crazy nice guy. He knew us all. One day my aunt who always picked me up wasn't there at the stop. He said that I could stay on the bus and we would drive back after the route. Maybe she was just late. We drive back and she still wasn't there. So he asked me which house was mine. He drove us there and parked his bus. We rang the bell a bunch and threw small rocks at her window. Nothing. Her car was there though, so it was very weird. My friend's mom drove by and saw us. She offered to take me to her house so I could call my parents and stay there for a while, even though it was her birthday. Bus driver left and said don't worry, she's probably just asleep. Turns out she was eternally asleep and had a brain aneurysm earlier in the day. I'll never forget that day or that nice driver though who wanted to make sure I was safe before he left. He even made sure to look out for me for the rest of the year. Great guy. When I was in 6th grade I moved from a really small town where I could walk to school every day to a much larger one where I had to ride the bus. I was having trouble finding my way around the school the first week and ended up running very late to catch the bus at the end of the day. I was already beating myself up about the fact that I was going to have to call my parents who would have to leave work early to pick me up. But when I got outside the bus was pulled right up to the doors waiting for me. The bus driver knew I had been on the bus that morning and verified with my brother that I was supposed to get on the bus to go home, so he waited. I know it seems really insignificant, but with all the stress and anxiety I was feeling trying to settle into a new house, new city, and a new school, it made a lasting impression on me. Thank you, Ron. Once while picking up a kid, a dog got on the bus and everyone went nuts and started petting it. The driver eventually shooed it away. One time this kid Dana, who looked identical to Donkey Lips from Salute Your Shorts, just look it up, was dead to drink an entire room temperature 2-liter bottle of Coke before we got to his stop. This kid chugged the entire bottle down like an absolute champion. At almost the instant his face could form a smug grin of satisfaction from a job well done, he proceeded to barf a borderline fountain of foamy sticky soda all over 2 terrified kids on the bus. It's as if his entire stomach was filled with rolls of Mentos, which was possible considering the candy was at its commercial peak at the time. I mean, the force of this thing could have put out a house fire. His arch reached over like 4 rows of seats and was sprayed wildly back and forth like a diabetic sprinkler system as he struggled to rein control from this carbonated demonic nightmare. The bus driver had to stop the bus to attend to the frightened children and made a short but sincere effort to pat dry those poor souls caught in ground zero with government grade paper towels. I've never seen anything quite like it, and I'm afraid I may never again. Well done, Dana. To cops dressed in SWAT gear riding the bus with us. A man had shot and killed 4 people in our neighborhood. The scene apparently wasn't secure yet or something, so they cops had to ride with us while the driver dropped us off. Holy crap, where did you live? Afghanistan. One time our bus hit a car in a roundabout. Guy we hit was completely at fault. He must have not understood the turning radius of a bus or something. We were close to school and our bus driver was like, well, I got a deal with this. So we got off the bus and walked to school. I don't really know what a bus driver should do in this scenario. You shouldn't really just leave the kids, but you obviously can't leave the scene. Probably would be best to get another bus out there. It was the late 70s. I think I was in 7th grade. Our bus driver was a very cool guy everyone called Animal. The bus was an old one with a stick shift and clutch. Last day of school, Animal drives the bus to a nearby park and instructs all of us to the back of the bus. We all pile up in the last 3 or 4 rows of seats and he revs the engine and pops the clutch. The guy was popping wheelers in a school bus. Rumor has it, he was banging the girl's gym teacher too. Good times. Not sure why this stuck with me, but this was during the cooler months that you would just crack the windows a bit to get fresh air. We would play football triangle paper kind by kicking it back and forth. I kicked it one time and it went out the window. The window only opened far enough that it could barely slide through on the side. It flew back into the bus 7 windows down, also through a window that was barely open enough to have it fit through. Hit a guy in the face. Was extremely bizarre. First day of my freshman year, a girl sitting across from me showed off her nipple ring. I always sat near the back of the bus from then on. I had a really big crush on this guy. I was staring longingly at him through the mirror above the bus driver, like dead on creeper staring. Then, he pointed or motioned towards me or something, and I suddenly realized he can see me staring at him, OMG, and felt like the stupidest person on earth. I was like a damn cat thinking I can see him in the mirror, but he can't see me drooling at him. Some kid in the back of the bus was being harassed by his bully. My school district didn't really do shit about bullies. The kid being bullied was sitting 3 to a seat with his legs in the aisle, and the bully was sitting by one of his friends in the aisle across from the kid he was messing with. The bully decided to start pushing the kid's leg. Before it was verbal, but now it was physical. Kid told bully to stop. Bully mocked him and did it again. Kid then punched the bully in the nose, breaking it and causing this huge amount of blood to leak from it. By now the bus has stopped at some bus stop. The kid gets his stuff and gets off at the bus stop that's a few ahead of his. The second he's off he starts running and going a different route to his house. The bus driver was unaware of what happened until someone yelled for the bus driver to call someone because the bully's nose wouldn't stop bleeding. So she calls someone while the bully is calling his mom crying. So we get the police to show up, his mom. Other kids have called their parents because at this point we've been at a standstill for 30+ minutes. And the principal. We don't know who called the police. So they, along with the principal, are asking who did it and to confess. And we are all like, we don't know. Of course we did know, but why would we tell on our hero? The principal and police are talking and they think the kid is still on the bus. We then say, oh, he got off, we don't know where he went or who he was. The principal and police look at the bus driver who shrugs because she didn't realize what was going on until it was too late. We spent 2 hours on that hot bus because of it, but I couldn't even be mad. My middle school bus was wild.